There are 6 deadly mistakes that people make every year when applying to German universities. They lead to so much pain and rejection, and I don't want you to experience that. So the first mistake that I see time and time again is not applying to enough universities. Now I get it, you have a dream university in mind, maybe it's TU Munich or University Mannheim, but you can't go all in on just one university. Germany has over 400 different universities, and each one has its own specific requirements, deadlines and criteria for international students. Even the most qualified students sometimes get rejected because of factors that are out of their control, like the numerus clausus, for example, which is a great restriction for popular degree programs. And this is especially true for competitive degrees like medicine, engineering or computer science. So what's the solution? You need to diversify your options. So first, make a list of 10 to 15 universities that offer the program you want to study. Look into their admission rates and whether they have open admissions or competitive programs with the NC system. For example, universities in smaller cities or less popular programs often have fewer restrictions and might be easier to get into. And also applying to both universities of applied sciences and classic universities gives you more flexibility, especially if your grades are not perfect or if you prefer a more practical education. But more on that later in the video. Now, while you are applying to German universities, you will stumble upon a platform called Uni Assist. If you use this one, each university application will cost 35 euros. But there are also plenty of universities in Germany that don't use Uni Assist, and applying to them is completely free. It's always better to choose from the multiple admits that you get instead of going all in on one university. Now, the next mistake that I see is procrastination. Procrastination is one of the biggest application killers. I see this mistake all the time, and many students write me messages that they've missed a deadline and don't know what to do now. I don't want you to be one of them. German universities have strict deadlines, and missing one could mean that you need to wait an entire year for the next intake. The problem is that many students underestimate the time it takes to complete everything, gathering documents, translating certificates, and even passing language exams. So here is exactly what you need to know about the application deadlines. So for the winter semester, which is by the way the most popular intake, applications usually close on July 15th. And for the summer semester, the deadline is usually January 15th. Now, some universities, especially those that use Uni Assist, might require you to apply even earlier because the application process takes a bit longer. Uni Assist can take 4 to 6 weeks to process your documents. So please start preparing your documents at least, I would say, about 6 months before the deadline. Don't wait until the last minute to apply. University portals sometimes crash or stop working under high traffic near the deadline. On my channel, you can also find a dedicated video about all the deadlines you need to keep in mind. Ignoring language proficiency is another huge mistake and one that could ruin your entire application. In Germany, even if you're applying for an English-taught program, some universities still require proof of basic German skills. It's usually A1 or A2. And for German-taught programs, you need to be on the B2 or C1 level. Universities take this pretty seriously, and without the right language certificate, they won't even review your application. So here is how it works. So for German-taught programs, you'll typically need to pass exams like TestDev, DSH, or get a Goethe certificate in B2 or C1. If you're applying for an English-taught program, you'll likely need to submit an IELTS or TOEFL score, but don't neglect basic German skills because you need it to survive in Germany. To survive in Germany, I can recommend you be at least on the A2 level of German. And most students overlook the fact that language certificates can take weeks or even months to prepare for, and exam slots can fill up quite fast. So plan to take your language exams several months before your application deadlines. Now, some universities even allow you to submit a lower level language certificate with the condition that you achieve the required level by the time you enroll at the university. If you want to learn German fast directly from me, check out my language program Speedy German. It's the most affordable German program out there, and I made it specifically for studying in Germany. It's the top link in the video description. A different mistake that I see very often is picking the wrong type of university. So Germany offers multiple different types of higher education institutions, and picking the wrong one could affect your career path and also career satisfaction. Now, the two main types are classic universities, and these are more academically oriented and focus on research. If you're aiming for a PhD, research positions, or want to work in academia, then this might be the right choice for you. And then there are the universities of applied sciences. They are called Fachhochschule, and they focus more on practical training, and they are great for students who want to dive straight into the industry after graduation. So programs like engineering, business administration and IT, they are often offered with a hands-on approach at these institutions. Now here's the thing, many students apply to universities based on prestige alone, not realizing that there are also other options available that could be a better fit for them. So don't just look at superficial university rankings, but instead research a bit more to figure out what the strengths and weaknesses of a particular university are. Check if the type of university matches your career goals. Are you aiming for practical experience, or do you prefer a more theoretical, research-heavy approach? There are fantastic options for both. Not planning and not creating a clear timeline. This is one more mistake that can easily destroy your plans. Many students don't sit down to create a proper timeline for their application process. Remember, applying to a German university is not just about filling out one form. The process is way more complex than that. You need to collect and authenticate academic transcripts and other necessary documents, like the BPD through UniAssist. Then you also have to take language proficiency exams, and these can be for German or English. You also have to prepare your motivation letter and CV, which you often tailor to each program, and also check whether you need to hand in additional documents. One example would be the APS certificate that is required for students from certain countries like China, India and Vietnam. So if your deadline is in July, aim to finish gathering your documents by March or April. Some things might take longer than expected. For example, Gaurav, a student whom I helped studying in Germany, in his journey there were all sorts of unexpected things that didn't go smoothly. For example, his APS certificate got delayed. But since he had a good timeline and plenty of time available, it was no problem, and in the end he safely got into a good university in Germany. Now finally, you have to be extremely cautious of shady consultants making big promises. You will find a lot of agencies claiming that they can get you guaranteed admission in Germany if you pay them thousands of euros. But the reality is, no one can guarantee admission to a German university. The admission process is strict and transparent. What often happens is some consultants will submit incomplete or incorrect applications on your behalf, which can result in rejections. Always double check everything yourself. It's absolutely possible to handle the entire application process on your own. All the information you need is freely available on official websites, and portals like UniAssist offer clear guidelines for international students. Consultants can help with some paperwork or advice, but don't rely on them for everything. If someone claims that they can guarantee you admission or get you into a university without the required qualifications, it's most likely a scam. If you keep these things in mind, you will get closer to your goal of studying in Germany. In case you want to learn German directly from me, check out Speedy German and also other useful resources in the video description. Subscribe and join our huge Discord community. Love you and stay focused.